Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Africa 360. I'm your host, Kwangu Liwewe. What will it take to defeat all that remains of the fierce Hutu militia that instigated the 1994 Rwandan genocide? That's the question we're asking on Africa 360 this week as the Democratic Republic of Congo, South Africa, and the United Nations forces prepare to take on the FDLR.
The year is 1994. Corpses litter the streets of Rwanda as one of the worst genocides in history comes to an end. A new transitional government comes to power, and those responsible for the mass killing of an estimated 1 million Tutsis and moderate Hutus are on the run. The dense and impenetrable forests of the DRC make an obvious choice to hide. In the crowded camps of the Congo, where millions of civilian Hutus find refuge, the ex-Hutu militia, or Interahamwe, regroup and recruit, forming a new rebel group that would come to be known as the Democratic Force for the Liberation of Rwanda, or the FDLR. The group claims their origins stem from the need to protect vulnerable Hutu civilians from reprisal attacks led by Paul Kagame. Today, their ambiguous end goals range from bringing freedom and democracy to Rwanda to reconquering the country and restoring Hutu power. For 2 decades, they've been a thorn on the side of the DRC and Rwanda, accused of mass rapes, killings, displacement, and general political chaos in the Great Lakes region.
The reality is that the FDLR are one of the largest armed groups and certainly one of the oldest armed groups operating in the eastern DRC. They've been at the center of the destabilizing influences in the eastern DRC for a very, very long time. And that's both because they have now created links to local armed groups. There have been different splinters of the FDLR who have cooperated with local armed groups who have cooperated with the Congolese army. And so there is that just very simple destabilizing factor. There is also the fact that they have quite entrenched economic interests in illegal mining, for example, but also in trade. And then finally, there is the fact that, for Rwanda, this is what Rwanda will always say. The eastern DRC is ungoverned by the central government in Kinshasa, and they harbor the FDLR, a movement that is a threat to the Tutsi government and to the security and stability of Rwanda. So long as you have the FDLR sitting in the eastern DRC, you will have Rwanda saying that, and you will not find a solution to regional peace.
Neither the Rwandan nor the Congolese governments will tolerate them any further.
They are a force that has been used or has outright done some activities that harm the security of this country. They are, more importantly, an ideological poison for the region. So we should get rid of it. It's not complicated.
Now a fresh offensive will be launched against the FDLR. The DRC and the United Nations Stabilization Mission in the DRC, MONUSCO, have announced military campaigns. MONUSCO's Force Intervention Brigade includes troops from South Africa, Tanzania and Malawi. The last offensive against the group in 2009 failed, resulting in civilian deaths and the displacement of over 1 million people. This attack will be no less tricky, with the FDLR camped in forests and integrated with civilians. Victory is far from certain. Meanwhile, civilians brace themselves for more smoke and gunfire over eastern DRC.
In an exclusive interview for Africa 360, we are now going to speak to the spokesperson for the FDLR, Mr. Laforge Fiz-Baziye, who joins us on the line from North Kivu in the DRC. Now, the FDLR is facing a war with the DRC and MONUSCO forces after failing to meet a deadline to disarm and be repatriated to Rwanda. Why did the majority of your fighters ignore the deadline?
I would like to draw the world's attention to the fact that the ultimatum we were given by MONUSCO and the United Nations Security Council does not make sense, since we voluntarily surrendered our arms and even requested the international community to engage in a political path that will help solve the Rwandan problem. We have tried to surrender our arms on several occasions, and in fact 26% of our members are already in UN repatriation camps. So this issue of saying that we should give up arms on the 2nd of January really doesn't make sense to us. What we are looking for is dialogue between us and the government of Rwanda. We encourage the international community to stop threatening us by death and attacks, but rather promote this peaceful path for us to return to Rwanda.
But is there any solution to this now? Because the government of Rwanda has actually said that they will not have any political dialogue with you. So what is the way forward on your side?
It is clear that the international community doesn't understand why we took up arms. We took up arms to protect the refugees and stop the extermination of refugees here in Congo. We have more than 250,000 refugees here in Congo. So instead of giving us ultimatums, the international community should convince the government of Rwanda to negotiate with us. There is no other way. Again, I would like to remind the international community that the government of Rwanda has no right at all to refuse to dialogue with its own people. The international community should give an ultimatum to the government of Rwanda so that the problems of Rwandan people are solved by the Rwandans. We would like to remind the whole world that we have been protecting these refugees for 20 years. And for those 20 years, the government of Rwanda has been trying to kill us. There has been more than 4 huge operations to finish us off, but they have not succeeded. So we are certain that they won't succeed this time around. But we are peaceful people who insist on dialogue and encourage the international community to not abandon their mandate of being peacemakers and accept that Rwandans should be dialoguing among themselves. This is not a problem of fighting, but a political issue that should be negotiated. We need to be in our country. We are not enjoying being here in the Congo, and it will remain that way until both parties find a solution.
Mr. Baziye, the Rwandan government claims that since the genocide ended 20 years ago, your organization still harbors genocidal ideologies and that you wish to restore Hutu power. How true is this?
We don't have any genocidal ideology of wanting to kill Tutsis in Rwanda. Instead, we would like to establish a government that respects the rights of the majority and minorities. But again, to allow the nation to choose its own leaders. So the accusations that are coming from Kigali are definitely not what we represent or aim to achieve.
Thank you, sir, for your time.
Okay, merci à vous aussi, bon service.
Do join us after the break, because when we come back, I'll be joined by the ambassadors of both Rwanda and the DRC, as well as a political analyst to discuss the latest offensive against the FDLR. Do stay with us.
Rwanda has never rejected the sons and daughters of Rwanda. Rwanda has rejected a dialogue, a political dialogue, with a genocidal force.
Well, joining us now from our Pretoria studios is the Rwandan ambassador to South Africa, His Excellency Vincent Karega. Here in our Johannesburg studio is the Democratic Republic of Congo's ambassador to South Africa, His Excellency Ben Mpoko, as well as Gilbert Kadiagala, who is a professor of international relations from Wits University here in Johannesburg. A warm welcome to you, and thanks for joining me on Africa 360. Ambassador Mpoko, let me start with you. We had the FDLR fail to comply with the January 2nd deadline to surrender and disarm. What is your government doing about this way forward? And I'm asking this question because we need clarity on whether DRC is doing this unilaterally or they're still doing it with the help of MONUSCO.
We did ask for a request from the UN to support us, MONUSCO, and especially the Special Brigade, International Brigade, which is comprised of South Africa, Malawi, and Tanzania. They did send the troops there to form their brigade. Now, we have reached a point where we had to engage them forcefully. But our MONUSCO friends, including South Africa and Malawi and Tanzania, they are saying the operations is so delicate that they don't want to be responsible for any collateral damages. What does that mean? It means that those FDLR guys, they are hiding in the villages, on the mountains. They have intermingled themselves into the Congolese community. They have married Congolese, they have children and so forth. So you had to sort them out one by one in order to go after them. So you had to do a very carefully intelligence work to identify where they are and go after them. Now, when you go after them, they live with the civilians. So they are going to be, inevitably, there are going to be some civilian casualties.
Professor, maybe you can come in here and comment on whether the military way is the only way that the FDLR can be dealt with.
They were given the option of voluntarily surrendering, and that period has passed. They have been there for many years. We've lost a lot of opportunities to get rid of them. I think the agreement to get them voluntarily surrendering by January 2nd was a good one. But I think beyond that, is getting a bit too late to wait for them to surrender voluntarily.
What about dialogue?
I think the ongoing dialogue with some of the leaderships. I don't think it's purely a military, it's going to be purely a military operation.
Ambassador Karega, how welcome are they to be repatriated back to Rwanda?
Rwanda has never rejected the sons and daughters of Rwanda. Rwanda has rejected a dialogue, a political dialogue, with a genocide of force. Genocide is the highest crime in the world. Whoever stands for genocide is a terrorist of the first category. It's not a liberation movement. It's not an opposition party. It's not a marginalized community struggling to be reintegrated. It is a negative force looking to destabilize or eliminate the different person, the different ethnic group. That's why, in our view, in our politics, no room for political dialogue with FDLR as a political movement, but room as a country to welcome all sons and daughters of Rwanda ready to return back home.
Ambassador Mpoko, maybe you can come in here, because this is not the first time that your government has tried to get rid of the FDLR. What makes you think that this time around you'll be successful?
Well, first of all, the numbers are much reduced than the initial numbers, because a lot of them have been repatriated to Rwanda. Some have surrendered. We are keeping them in different camps, just waiting for some third party to accommodate to take them in. So it's not a Congolese problem at all. So we cannot continue.
Links between the FDLR and the Congolese government and army. How do you respond to this?
Say that again?
That there are links between the FDLR and the Congolese government and army, dating back to the days of Laurent Kabila. Have these links been severed? I
have no proof or evidence of any links that anybody will be talking about. I don't even know what that means. They have been living in Congo. Of course, they have some contacts with the Congolese. But we're saying that at the government level, there are links with them, except that there is a contact with the leaders to persuade them to surrender and so forth. There is some kind of communication going on, okay, that it cannot be denied, either between them and MONUSCO, between them international community, between our government and them. There's some kind of communication. So if there are links of communication to persuade them to surrender and so forth and so on. But there are no other forms of links with those guys, because they're criminals. How can we have links with the criminals? Unless they also are accomplices in Congo who are also engaging with them in criminal activities, but not officially at the government level. So my government has decided to go after them, regardless what it cost, regardless how long it will take. We had to get rid of these guys.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. And coming up, we speak to members of the exiled opposition group, the Rwanda National Congress. They'll be giving us their perspective on the FDLR. Don't go away.
Ideology means if you don't agree with the government of Rwanda, you become a terrorist, according to the definition of Rwanda.
Welcome back. Joining me now are two members of the Rwanda National Congress, and that's a movement that represents exiled oppositions to the government of Rwandan President Paul Kagame. A warm welcome to Mr. Frank Twali of the RNC. He's the Commissioner for Human Rights and Refugee Affairs. Also with him is Mr. Mike Rarinda, who is the Vice Chairman of the RNC in Gauteng. Gentlemen, thanks very much for coming on to Africa 360. Frank, I'll start with you. The FDLR actually claims to be fighting for freedom and democracy in Rwanda. So some people do dub them as freedom fighters, while others, such as the ambassador, has called them criminals and terrorists. What's your take on this?
As we sit here, history is repeating itself. You've heard the ambassador of Rwanda saying that these are criminals, they are terrorists. At the same time, he says they are sons and daughters of Rwanda who should actually come back. But we all know that genociders, he cannot single out one of them who is indicted for the crimes of genocide. The ambassador of Congo says they've been integrated in the communities of Congo. It means they have become part and parcel of the community. And FDLR has said, we need to talk, we need to dialogue. Where have you seen Kwangu in the world where someone says, let's talk, listen to our problems? You say, you drum drums of war. You want to kill them. You want the international community, Congolese government, all of them to come and kill these innocent people. So it's very absurd that the international community actually is being manipulated by the Rwandan government to repeat what Kagame has done in Congo. It's being actually the mapping report. Instead of actually looking into the crimes of Kagame, they are looking into FDLR. The mapping report shows clearly that the Rwandan government has committed war crimes, crimes against humanity. Possibly, they may be dubbed as genocide. But that has been put aside. And they are busy pursuing, as the ambassador said, that the number doesn't matter. We are talking about here ideology. How do you define that ideology? Ideology means if you don't agree with the government of Rwanda, you become a terrorist, according to the definition of Rwanda.
Might just pick up on what Frank was talking about, where he accused President Kagame of committing human rights atrocities as well. You guys, the RNC, have every right to take this matter up with institutions such as the ICC. Why are you not doing this?
Yeah, actually, RNC has already lodged a complaint with the courts. However, if we talk about the crimes that were committed by RPF, I may remind you a Garson report that was published in '95. And also, the attack on the refugee camps in Congo in itself, that was a crime against humanity. More than 300,000 people perished at that time, but nobody's talking about that. We talk about the ICTR trying people who were involved in the genocide in Rwanda, but forgetting that, you know, it was two sides fighting, you understand? Atrocities committed in the Kibeho refugee camp. It was inside Rwanda. UN was there. Everybody watched. But until now, they haven't done anything. I don't know if they are scared of Kagame or what. But as Rwandans, we know exactly what happened. We know crimes that were committed by RPF. We know crimes that were committed by the previous regime.
Now, surely, Frank, you did mention something about dialogue. The Rwandan government has categorically said that they won't dialogue or negotiate with terrorists. Honestly, this is their view, and they'll stand by this, and they've told them to disarm. What is wrong with that policy?
That policy, it has not worked anywhere where you refuse to negotiate with the people opposing you. RPF should be reminded by itself. It was termed as a terrorist group, but was afforded the opportunity to negotiate in Arusha. Unfortunately, Kagame ended that peace accord when he started the genocide by ordering the shooting down of the plane of Habyarimana and Nadiamir of Burundi, which actually culminated into the genocide we are talking about here. So Kagame and his clique must be reminded. Karega probably may not understand, because by that time when we were fighting that, he was in South Africa, in Hebrew. But for those who know, RPF was termed as a terrorist. These are rebels, they are eNCA cockroaches. However, it did not take away that they were fighting to liberate themselves or the people of Rwanda. Today, the problems are bigger than FDLR. The problems are bigger than Karega or Kagame himself. They are problems that need to be addressed by the Rwandan people. So that's why we are saying, Kagame, stop killing people. Now he's manipulating the population to change the constitution that he can also extend his mandate. Unfortunately, he wants to use the international community, he wants to use the Congolese people, FIB, this South African brigade, to actually give him a cause that Kagame should actually continue in power, because the people opposing him After the FDLR is taking RNC, we are working with FDLR. You know, this is the rhetoric of Rwanda. Whoever opposes them is a terrorist, is working with the people who are terrorists. But
I wanted to take you up on that point about the relationship between FDLR and the RNC. I mean, the government of Rwanda, of Kigali, has actually said several times that some of your top leaders are members or aiding FDLR.
I mean, rightly speaking, the report, the UN report has confirmed that RNC have got any working relationship with FDLR. However, FDLR are Rwandans like us. We share many problems as refugees, as people who are hunted down, as people who have been denied their rights to a country. Therefore, we sympathize with them in one way or the other, and we don't see any problem by talking to them, by sharing ideas.
You sympathize with a group that has genocidal ideologies?
Look, the genocide ideologies is a definition of Kagame regime. That should be tested and proven by the relevant organs of the international community, as the genocide in Rwanda was determined by the United Nations Security Council. There's nowhere in the United Security Council resolutions whereby they say that FDLR has committed genocide. Remember, FDLR was born in 2001. You understand? That was how many years after the genocide?
But the same group has been accused of murder, rape, burning villages. Is this justifiable, Frank?
We cannot condone any crimes by any group. However, we should be very specific to the facts. We should not go by the rhetorics of Rwanda, who is creating actually the whole havoc in Congo. Then we take his side to actually kill the innocent Rwandans.
Mike, maybe come in here. I'm a little bit confused. Whose interest is it to go to war with the FDLR?
It's Kagame's interest only. Why? Kagame is trying to legitimize, to legitimize the atrocities he has committed. And now he's trying to fool the UN and the other international organs so that they can help him to participate in those crimes. Because eventually those crimes will be exposed and Kagame may face justice. But Kagame will not face justice together with the UN. Hence, he wants to draw the international community into his plans of, legitimizing his activities.
Let's talk about MONUSCO here. Yeah. They've been there since 2000, yet we haven't seen peace and stability in the region. What's your comment on this?
Of course. You see, Kigali government has actually made them to fade because it's in its interest to perpetually make the regime weak of Congo, create different rebel groups, that UN will not have the capacity actually to police Congo as it is, vast as it is. And there is evidence to that. Let's take an example of M23. This is a force that actually, M23 in name, but actually these were forces from Rwanda. MONUSCO could not actually tackle these forces because these were overwhelming, well-equipped.
The FIB came in and managed to quash them. So why this time around, why don't they go down that avenue as well?
FIB went there to fight M23 because M23 was a force which could be identified with arms, everything basically which was there fighting. But FDLR today, we are talking about people who are integrated in the community. We are talking about what Ambassador says, it's an ideology. So now, you're going to kill people because of the ideology? This should be very sad. People, if they have a different ideology from yours, that should not be a justifiable reason for UN to back Rwanda and keep killing the Rwandans. Because now, let's take an example. We are here in South Africa. Kagame has continued to kill the refugees in South Africa. He's killed refugees in Uganda. He's killing refugees in Kenya. I can give you names. But because this is evidence that is already on the ground, how sure actually that without
but
now...
The High Commissioner just offered you the olive branch and said every Rwandan is welcome to come back home.
But look, the ones who are in Rwanda today are freeing Rwanda. Take an example of myself. I've left Rwanda running away. Look at the General Kayumba who has run away. Look at the Sendashongas who have run away. There are very many people who are running away now. There is an incident where what is happening today, look at the generals being in prison today. Can that atmosphere give the confidence of those people who are being already dubbed terrorists? You know, that is, of course, a contradiction in itself. You are telling people they are terrorists, they are criminals. Okay, now, but you come back, there is no problem. So why don't you, before you tell them to come back, actually listen to them where you are not in total control of their being?
Mike, finally, we've just come almost to the end of the show. A quick question to you. Of course, FDLR has been there for almost 20 years. They failed to quash them. Do you think this time around they'll get them?
It's not going to happen. It's not going to work. Still, the problem of FDLR is a political problem. It's started in Kigali. It have to end in Kigali.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for appearing on Africa 360.
So thank you.
And that brings us to the end of this week's episode of Africa 360. We would like to hear your views on the FDLR. What are the chances that this military campaign will succeed? Tweet us your views at A360_eNCA or join the debate by going to our Facebook page. You can also send us an email to africa360@enca.com. So until next time, it's goodbye for now. Thanks for watching. Frank, thanks very much.